Welcome to the Golden State Media Concepts, America's Still Beautiful podcast, a weekly news podcast covering all the top positive and uplifting news stories. Are you tired of the same old news? Are you sick of the seemingly endless political spin and negativity? We cover stories that will inspire, uplift, and remind you of the good in the world. Tune into the Golden State Media Concepts, America's Still Beautiful podcast to get all the great and positive news stories of today.
Hello and welcome to GSMC, America's Still Beautiful podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Alyssa Jo. How's it going today? I hope you're staying healthy. I hope you're staying inside. I hope you're staying sane. I'm here to bring you some good news, some positivity, a smile to your face. I have some stories that are some good news about COVID-19. I have some stories that are not related to it at all that can give you a break from thinking about it. But either way, everything I'm going to share with you today is happy and positive, and I think we could all use a little positivity right now. So, my first one, if you were ever wondering what felines do when they go outside, then I have the answer. This might be for more of you cat lovers out there. I just found this quite funny when I heard this story. So one team of scientists have launched an initiative to track the movements of felines, just to kind of gain some insight into their outdoor lives. They call this the Cat Tracker Project. It's a pretty simple concept. Basically, they want to find out where cats go and what they do. So this was founded by the researchers from North Carolina Museum of Natural Sciences. The team placed GPS collars on the cats of willing volunteers, basically, and let them live their everyday life, I guess. So after they tracked the movements and the behaviors of almost 1,000 cats, they did this across 4 different countries, and then they analyzed the data for 6 years. This is a huge project. Now the results are finally in, and I guess some of the findings can kind of be a little bit of a surprise. So here we go. So the lead project author, Roland Kays, says, I was surprised at how little these cats moved. Most of them spent all their time within 100 meters or 330 feet of their yard. That's not to say that a lot of cats weren't moving about. They said that 7% covered more than 25 acres, and several cats had enormous ranges. The record setter was a cat named Penny, a young female from the suburbs of Wellington, New Zealand. And little Penny roamed for quite a while over some hills behind her house, covering an area greater than 3 square miles. That's quite a long ways for a little cat. Then there was Max, another cat, who is a neutered tomcat from England. And he walked from his home village of St. Newland East all the way to Trevelyan. So that's over a mile and then back for no apparent reason. I guess just Max wanted to go on a little journey, a little trek. He actually did this trek twice in 6 days because he was tracked. And so he left and he went on a little journey by himself. So if you have a little furry friend, a cat, and you're wondering what they do, well, I guess the answer is they just wander around pretty much. Some go far, some stay close. They say not to worry if you kind of have an adventurous cat. The study did found that the vast majority of cats, simply put, universally lazy. They are all pretty much lazy. They pretty much chill out. Some wander, but a lot stay pretty close to their house. So they kind of did, different tests on different cats if they leave the backyard, depending on their personalities. And it was a huge project over 6 years. I just thought it was kind of funny, so I wanted to share it with you. But it doesn't just end there. This cat project, if you ever wanted to understand what your cat's personality is like, I think we all kind of want to know what our pet's personality is like. But this is what the project website explains. It says, with help from our colleagues at Discovery Circle in Australia, we know that there are 5 overarching traits in feline personality. They're named the Feline 5. So, here's the Feline 5 for you. Skittish, outgoing, spontaneous, dominance, and friendliness. So, this is all calculated on a scale showing how much your cat exhibits characteristics in each of the Feline 5 traits. So then with this project, they also had a branch of work through some studies about cats hunting local birds and mammals for sport. They analyzed hair and food samples from participants, and then they were able to kind of see, I guess, what was going on. They kind of were looking if a cat was snacking beyond the food bowl, is the term that they said. This kind of might seem a little weird to owners and kind of grossed out for some owners. But the research actually says that free-ranging domestic cats in the United States alone kill up to 4 billion birds and 22 billion mammals each year. So that could be over 3 times the population of human beings on planet Earth. Crazy. So I guess this isn't the first time that they've kind of calculated the number of birds that are killed by pet cats. I guess back in 2018, GNN covered a story about a cat mom. Her name was Nancy Brennan, and she had been really, really frustrated by how many birds that her little cat, George, was bringing by. So she became determined to stop him from hunting birds by any means. So she tried to do this. So she read some articles about taking notice of bright colors, I guess. She created a rainbow kitty collar for George to wear. It had like really vibrant, alerted kind of, I guess, bird colors. I didn't really know that was a thing. But it worked. George stopped killing birds. So she called it the Birds Be Safe collar. And it ended up being pretty effective for some other pet owners as well. So there you go. Now you know what your cat does, and if you want your cat to stop eating birds, then put a colorful collar on it. I just thought I'd share that silly story with you. My next one, though, is something about COVID-19, but it's positive. People are now stocking little free libraries with, like, toilet paper and food for neighbors in need. So this is called, like, Little Free Libraries, and there are over 75,000 registered Little Free Libraries all over the world, and this happened before COVID-19. People were putting just basic supplies in these pantries for people that are in need, people that need some extra help, but now with the pandemic going on, well, they've kind of converted these into, they've just basically added items that could help people during COVID-19 and during all of these craziness going on outside in our world. So literally there's 75,000 registered little pantries. This has been happening since 2016. But they have converted them basically just into some, helpful things for people during this time. It's just like an uplifting example of spreading kindness and, doing what you can to try to, help where you can, basically. So now there's these little tiny pantries everywhere. I saw some pictures. If you do follow us on social media, I posted some pictures up on our social media of what these pantries look like. They're pretty cool. And it's just spreading kindness in the community. These pantries are literally everywhere from Vancouver, Canada to Arlington, Massachusetts. They're filled with toilet paper, canned goods, books, hand sanitizer, toiletries, so many different things. A mom was saying that, it's given her kids something to invest their time into. They'll make crafts. They'll try to stock up, little sanitizer kits if they have stuff, toilet paper. And it's actually given her kids something to do since school is closed and all these things. And she's like, we might as well be doing our part to help give back. Keeps the kids busy. It helps others out. You can't go wrong with that. So they are following quarantine guidelines, though. The local pantry caretakers are just reminding visitors to wash their hands, sanitize the pantry door handles before handling, any contents in it, just making sure everything is clean, following basically, the guidelines that we all need to be following right now. Now, I just have a quick little story for you that put a smile on my face, and it's about a dog owner in Cyprus, and there was some footage blown up on social media. You might have seen it, but he was walking his dog using his drone just to practice social distancing. Yes, literally using his drone. He is walking his dog around his community. It is probably like the cutest, funniest, weirdest video I've seen. This dog just wanders around and the drone is literally holding the leash and walking him. This pet owner wanted just to, put this on social media, try to, first of all, put a smile on people's faces, add some positivity to the day and hopefully inspire, other pet owners to get out there and walk their dog with their drones, I guess, to practice social distancing. I don't know. I thought it was pretty cute. Okay, so it's time for a little bit of break, but don't go anywhere. When we get back, I got some more amazing stories to share with you, so stay tuned.
The GSMC Life and Happiness Podcast takes you on a journey of exploration. We'll discuss tried and true methods alongside the latest trends of how to best live your life to its fullest and happiest. From psychology to meditation, science to self-help books, the GSMC Life and Happiness Podcast will help you to discover what makes you happy and how you can live life being the best you possible. Download the GSMC Life and Happiness Podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
Welcome back to GSMC, America's Still Beautiful podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Alyssa Jo. How's it going? We're back. I'm sharing uplifting stories for you. I have a pretty cool story that when I read this, I was shocked. I had no idea this was a thing. So there is a cow that swam 4 miles to shore. This cow survived Hurricane Dorian. And now that cow has given birth to what they're calling a miracle calf. They're calling it the sea calf. So this pregnant cow survived the hurricane, swam 4 miles back to shore last September, and has now given birth to the sea calf. That's what they're calling it. So this calf has white fur, 1 brown eye, 1 blue eye, which is obviously very rare. It's shared amongst only some animals. Pretty cool calf. The farming organization Ranch Solutions was hired to return this pregnant cow, who they call Dory, back to North Carolina's Cedar Island, about 350 miles east of Charlotte, after she and I guess 2 other cows were discovered in the Outer Banks after escaping, the crazy nearly 8-foot mini tsunami hurricane. So, Dory said the Ranch Solutions that it was very difficult to be getting them, back and rescued onto the island. But the cows that live on Cedar Island are considered feral, and most have unique bleach blonde appearance. So that's kind of cool. The wild cattle that lived on Cedar Island were not used to seeing humans or having them approach them. So this kind of made it more difficult to get these cows back to where they need to be. Many other creatures that live on the island, there's 28 wild horses, died during the storm. But now, one of the cows that survived the hurricane has given birth to a pretty unique sea calf, they're calling it. I had no idea that cows survived all of this, and I need to do more research, apparently. But, there you go. We now have a sea calf in our world. Now, my next story is about a waitress in Smithfield who turned out to be the perfect person for a random act of kindness. So Jessica Smith is a mother of 3. She's a single mother of 3, and she's also waiting for a new kidney and pancreas. She serves at So Di So Pa in Smithfield, and of course, due to COVID-19, the restaurant closed. But she received a random act of kindness, and I think it just, well-deserved. So Nathan Shepard is a local musician. He decided to take his talents to Facebook Live, which a lot of people are doing these days, to go live on the internet and entertain people from, their house. But he was playing guitar, and he was asking for donations to help out someone in need. So in that one day, he raised $235 to tip a local waitress, and that local waitress turned out to be Jessica Young. Of course, Nathan had no idea that, she was a single mother of 3, that she's in need of a kidney and a pancreas. He had no idea. It just ended up, being her. He said that I didn't want to see her response. I just wrote a note on the back of the check and left it in the book and walked out. I just didn't want to see her face. I just wanted her to enjoy that moment. He says it wasn't about me. All the other people that donated, those are the real heroes. To know that maybe that was a little weight taken off her shoulders, well then, mission accomplished. Pretty cool. So after Nathan left that night, the restaurant owner, Tracy O'Dodd, sent him a text that said, I pray every day, but tonight, after you left, I dropped to my knees and sobbed while I thank God for providing to my employees what I could not. It gives me goosebumps. He says, one outpouring of support is amazing. This was the perfect person for this gift to end up with. Along with being a single mother and needing a kidney and pancreas, Jessica also has type 1 diabetes. She's at the top of the list for that new kidney and pancreas. But since, recently receiving some news, she was told that she wouldn't be able to have the surgery because of the current COVID-19 pandemic. So this act of kindness, was just that much more meaningful. It was just, something that she really needed to lift her spirits in this time. She says it helps me tremendously, worrying about everyone being taken care of and my kids. It's just a relief. So Nathan says he hopes to continue doing some acts of kindness like this once a week for as long as possible, just to help the community get through this together. He's going to use his talents to go on Facebook Live, raise some donations, and spread kindness wherever possible, which I think we should all be doing. He says, I was the rock that was thrown in the pond, and I want to create a ripple effect. I would love to see other people doing this. I would love to see the ripple effect as well. Now, my next story is about a man. This is pretty cool. So he couldn't go out for his birthday dinner. His name is CJ Krozik. I hope I'm probably not saying that. Krozik. He couldn't go on his birthday dinner, so he decided to do something even better. He's an attorney from Milwaukee, and he started SOS. This stands for Save Our Spots. It is a fundraiser for Milwaukee restaurants, and he started a GoFundMe page. So, him and his wife, Julie, started the campaign by offering to match the first $4,600 in donations, and this is because he simply turned 46 years old on March 19th. So he decided to open this account at 12:01 a.m. on Thursday, the day of his birthday. And before 5 p.m., the donations came to more than $16,000. So this is what he wrote. He said, hey friends, it's my birthday today, the big 4-6. So far, things are going very well. My party is canceled. All the restaurants are closed. There is no basketball to be watched or played. And I'm not even supposed to visit my mom. With my plans in tatters, I'm asking you all to make a little better by giving me a birthday gift. So he posted this message to Facebook, and then he went to bed. By noon, his number of $4,600 was matched, and then it went on. And he raised all $16,000 super, super quickly. He says it's a testament to 2 things. I have a lovely and generous group of friends and the urgency people feel. And what they say, most people that, he knows likes to eat at restaurants, and they're lovely, and the people that serve their food are lovely, and he just wanted to make sure that there was, a safety net for restaurants that are neighborhood staples, small businesses, family-owned businesses, that could really go under during this time. So for the donations, he actually offered his friends nothing in exchange, no gift cards, no products, just a request. He says, "What I want for my birthday this year is your help in trying to save, or at least to stabilize until hope for government funding arrives, a few of Milwaukee's best restaurants and cafes during this time of crisis. If you've known me for a decade or a day, you probably know my views on the absolutely essential role that such places play in shaping the identity of cities, in binding people together, and in serving as the project for breathtaking Instagram photography." Pretty cool. So then recently, on this past Friday, he posted on Facebook again, this time just explaining that the GoFundMe had paused his campaign until he could add some transparency on how the funds he raises will be used. So at this point now, Save Our Spots has more than $21,000 in pledges. GoFundMe has talked to CJ himself, and just, he says, my primary relationship with the intended recipients is as a patron of the restaurants, cafes. Though some of them have become friends, I am not an owner or investor in any of the cafes or businesses. I've been in contact over the past 24 hours with most of the first wave of intended recipients, including just some small places, and then they are obviously eager to receive some donations, which I plan to start distributing from my own pocket even before we close the campaign and withdraw the donated funds. There you have it. Another man going above and beyond, doing what we can to try to help each other out in this crazy time. I see lots of GoFundMe pages that are helping, but I think it's super cool, to try to target small businesses in your community, because it's true, those ones will go under quickly, and those are staples for, towns, cities, all those small little businesses, those family-owned restaurants. Like, it's really, really difficult for them to stay afloat. So it's cool to see people do what they can, pull money out of their own pocket to start a ripple effect. If he didn't say, let's meet the $4,600, who knows if that would have happened. So I just think it's pretty cool that he started that ripple effect, and I see so many more of it online. So let's keep that up. Okay, it's time for another break, but don't go anywhere, because when we get back, I have some more pretty amazing stories to share with you, including a story about a man's effort to help the homeless during this whole pandemic. What he's done is pretty cool, I think. We don't realize, or sometimes we just forget, that other people don't have the same resources that we do during all of this craziness, but this man's gone above and beyond to help the people that don't have those resources. It's a pretty cool story, so stay tuned.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Welcome back to GSMC, America Still Beautiful podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Alyssa Jo. We're back, and before the break, I talked to you a little bit about a story of a man's efforts to help the homeless. during this whole chaos out there, the homeless aren't able to wash their hands. They're not able to disinfect things. And, social distancing with the homeless can definitely become quite the problem. But really what people are worried about is just keeping everyone clean and healthy. So Terrence Lester has been placing sinks with soap and water around Atlanta, where the homeless kind of migrate to and hang out there. So there are a bunch of we all listen to the news, we all open up our phones and the internet, and everyone is saying, wash your hands, make sure you're sanitizing, staying clean, but the homeless are not able to do that. And Terrence particularly knows, the challenges of living on the streets because he was homeless as a teenager. He is now currently the executive director of the nonprofit Love Behind Walls. This is a nonprofit dedicated to helping the homeless. And he's just super, aware of the difficulties the homeless go through. And especially right now, facing all these difficulties with the pandemic are just crazy. And it hit home for him, basically. And so he decided to find a solution. And this is basically portable wash basins that are sold for like RVs and camping. These things have a foot pump, and they bring water from a 5-gallon tank to the faucet, and then there's a soap dispenser that's built in right into the station. So it's pretty cool. And while he was setting up the first portable sink, he knew right away this was a need. There was a homeless man named Dimitri who lives on the streets just around the corner where he was setting up. And as soon as, before Terrence had even set up the portable sink, well, Dimitri is there and he's asking if he can wash his hands. He was like, I know that I will get sick if I'm not able to wash my hands after touching things, and I haven't been able to wash my hands. So basically, as soon as he saw that, he jumped to it, wanted to wash his hands and try to stay clean. So I thought that was pretty cool. You also may know the Grammy Award winner Lecrae and Reach Records. They're also helping Terrence provide the first 15 portable sinks. And Lecrae actually joined Terrence in assembling those first 15 sinks. So that's pretty interesting right there. But yeah, we can't forget about all the people that don't have the same resources as we do. So Terrence is helping out the homeless during this craziness right now. There is also a bar in Arizona that has found quite the creative way to keep business going. There has been lots of, shutdowns, and, people are really having a hard time to pay the bills and to keep their businesses afloat. Everyone's supposed to be shut down right now, but Hermia Gratza, the co-owner of the Thunderbird Lounge in Phoenix, Arizona, has kind of came up with a creative way to keep things rolling. Pun intended. He is actually giving out a roll of toilet paper with every beer or wine order. So he says, since we have plenty of toilet paper for our bathrooms that we can no longer use, figured we'd give it out for free. The Thunderbird Lounge closed its bar, and it's turned to just delivery as a way just to remain open during, the close to lockdown of the city. So basically, it seems to be working quite well at the Thunderbird Lounge. They've been, let's see here, they say that they've been taking dozens of calls each day. They made nearly $1,000 on their first day with takeout. Says, we went until 11 o'clock last night delivering, and people were answering doors in their PJs, and I handed them beer and toilet paper. There's just things like that. We kind of have to laugh. We have to look on the brighter side. He says it's just kind of door-to-door bartending, really, which I guess it is, door-to-door bartending. He says it's a very good idea, and a lot of people are very worried. A lot of people just need, to de-stress and kind of get out of their heads, and so with finding the essentials. So this helps people find the essentials as well, keep the business afloat for everybody. So that's always nice. He says, I would mean laying off all of our employees. This is the only job that they have that they rely on to pay their rent, their bills, and we just didn't want to do that. So they found the creative way to figure it out. There are other businesses doing things quite like this. Everything has kind of turned into takeout or delivery or some kind of, don't sit in here, but let me provide you with a service. And some people are really coming up with creative ways to do that with toilet paper or different sanitary, products that you can do. It just helps keep the customer happy. It helps keeps the employees happy. And, I think it just brings a little bit of light to the situation. So order your beer and a roll of toilet paper. Now, my next story has nothing to do with COVID-19. I just thought this was pretty interesting. I guess it could, in a sense, have to do with COVID-19. But there was a new medical treatment, and a man's lung was removed. It was cleaned, and it was replaced with no transplant necessary. This is pretty cool. So, Beilinson Hospital in Israel could basically change the way that cancers are treated. So, lung cancer is one of the deadliest cancers. The death rates have gone down worldwide since the 1990s, but this procedure can really offer hope to a lot of patients who have had, few options before, because there is a high demand when it comes to this. But they did remove a man's lung. They cleaned it of any cancerous tumors, and they placed it right back in again. So that is something that's only been done a few times in history. So it's pretty cool. The patient was in his mid-40s. He was hospitalized after a tumor in his left lung blocked the main artery, and this led him to collapse. So then, he went to the hospital, and some doctors, originally thought that his lung would need to be resectioned while he embarked upon, a dangerous road waiting for that transplant. It's a waiting game. However, though, this new procedure basically has the benefit of you don't only avoid, the long wait list of lung transplants, especially to find the right donor, the suitable donor, but it also saves you from chemotherapy and all of the aftermath of that and having to go through all of that. So this is pretty cool. A large team of surgeons, technicians, anesthesiologists, they kind of prepared and participated in this surgery. It required several hours. It's very, very complex, but they say, if we were to have simply cut out the lung alone, awaiting a transplant, the patient's conditions would continue to be life-threatening. So, yeah, this is what they did. This is what they're now being able to do. I guess during the operation, the man continued to breathe out of his good lung, while his other one was disconnected, cleansed from the tumor, and then reconnected after inflating it as a way, of making certain that it's going to be working and the tissue was still healthy. Pretty cool. The new method may change the way patients treat cancer in the world. This is what Professor Dan Arav, who also participated in the surgery, he says it can be applied to other organs and other forms of cancer as well. Pretty cool. I just thought I would throw in some new discoveries because those are still happening in our world and they're pretty interesting. Now, my next story, I love this. This made me feel good. There are many children who are dealing with isolation as well as all the adults out there. And I can't imagine being a young kid and having to stay inside for long periods of time. You don't get to see your friends. You don't get to go out. And being a parent trying to control your child in this chaos, I feel for you. Because that's a lot. And a lot of kids, will really fall into, what do I do? And this isolation could take a toll on them. But this is pretty cool. Some kids are going to be receiving some messages from Spiderman. Yes, Spiderman himself, Jake Johnson, the voice actor who played Peter Parker in the recent Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. He offered to record personalized voice messages for kids who may be having a hard time coping with isolation and the quarantines. And so just earlier this week, he published an Instagram post saying, since the quarantine, a lot of parents have DM'd me saying they've been watching Spider-Verse with their kids. I mean, a lot. So here's my idea. If your child is home from school and wants a quick encouraging message from Peter, then send me an email with their name and I'll try and send over a short voice note. So obviously the demand for these little notes became very high. So he did apologize in advance, just to say, I can't respond to everyone, because there is a lot, I'm sure. But he says he hopes that this will encourage families and kids to stay home during all of these shutdowns. Jake also said, he will do what he can. He's going to keep putting stuff out there, and trying to help out wherever he can and put a smile on kids' faces. So that's pretty cool. This is just another positive story and another update that's coming out of the whole pandemic right now. I see a lot of, famous people, celebrities, people that just have the capability to bring some extra smiles all over the world are doing so, and I think that's pretty cool to see. All right, though, that's all the stories I have to share with you today. Thank you so much for listening to GSMC, America Still Beautiful podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Alyssa Jo. As always, do not forget to hit that subscribe button, to like and follow us on social media, and leave a 5-star review. I have been posting lots of updates, positive things on our social media pages to lighten your day. So if you ever need to pick me up and you're all caught up on the episodes, go check out our Twitter and Facebook pages, and you'll see some light and funny stories to put a smile on your face during this chaos. Thank you for listening. I appreciate it, and I look forward to next time. Bye.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts, America Still Beautiful podcast, part of the GSMC Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcasts on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type in GSMC to find all of our shows. From the GSMC Podcast Network, from social media news to marketing news, and even weird news, the GSMC Podcast Network has you covered. You can also follow us on Twitter and Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's episode of the Golden State Media Concepts, America Still Beautiful podcast.